So probability is the measure of uncertainty of random experiments. So I have used 2-3 terms here. Measure, like it should be like measurable. Okay, fine. Yeah, I will reduce my pace. Okay. Probability, we have like 2-3 terms here. Like one is called measure, uncertainty, random, experiment. So I'll just tell what each of these is. So experiment we know, right? We want to do something. So I roll a coin, a die, or I toss a coin. So those are all experiments, right? So basically, so then what will come is random experiment. The random experiment is something in which before doing the experiment, I know the total set of outcomes that can come. Like if I toss a coin, I know that either a head or tail will come. But for the particular toss of the coin, I don't know whether a head or tail will come. So that is mean by random. If I know what is the outcome, then I will call it as a definite experiment. So that will be like the opposite of a random experiment. So if I have a biased coin, so it is possible, right? If I adjust the weight of the coin in some way, there are actually methods to do that. Then I can ensure that every time I toss a coin, only heads will show, or only tail will show. Or as we saw some villain doing in Spider-Man, the coin will, or Spider-Man is doing, I think. The coin always stands straight. It will neither fall head nor tail. Was it Spider-Man or Batman? I forget. Okay, some man. Okay, you might have seen. So that are all actually examples of biased coins. So if it is a biased coin, then we know that the outcome is definite. So that will fall under definite experiments case. Whenever the coin is unbiased or fair only, that will fall into the class of a random experiment. Now, second thing is similar to this only uncertainty. That is, there is some element of chance. That suppose the first thing is a head. Then the second try what I do, again it is not ensured. That time again it can be head or again it can be tail. And if I take some 100 times, all 100 can be heads, all 100 can be tails. Some 50 tails, 50 heads can come, and all combinations in between can come. So that is what there is an element of chance. And after I do 100 trials, if all 100 are heads, and I do a one not first trial, even then I am not sure whether head or tail will come. So that is what we mean by uncertainty. Then measure. The measure means that whatever experiment we are doing, the outcome of that should be somehow measurable, either in terms of volume or numbers or representation, whether it will be like true or false, that kind of way. We should have some way to measure the outcome of that random experiment. So when we club all these, we get the definition of probability. That is, probability is the measure of uncertainty of random experiments. Now we will go through 2-3 definitions of probability, and we will tell how each of those is being used or not being used, or what are the drawbacks or advantages of that. So first one we will go through is the classical definition. This is what you will encounter in most of the when I was in +2 in my probability textbook, this only was there. So yesterday when I went through the current NCERT textbook, there they have told like, okay, this is called the classical definition. So there are some problems with this, so you will go for some other method. But when I studied in my +2 during 2007, that time same NCERT textbook that I learned, it told me that okay, this is the definition of probability. So that is what I usually give these examples. When we are studying of atoms in high school, we will tell that atom is like a circle. Later we will tell that atom has a neutron, proton, electron. Then we will tell that it is nothing is actually there. Everything is quantum theory. So like that, as we go on studying further, we will build upon the concepts. So classical definition is something that we tell to the first level people. That is when to the who are first learning probability, we will tell that okay, this is probability, so as not to confuse them further. So what it is? Probability of an event is the number of outcomes favorable to the event. So that is number of favorable outcomes divided by total number of outcomes. So that will be if P denotes my number of favorable outcomes and T denotes my total number of outcomes. Then the probability given by P by T. That will be the classical definition. So now what are the problems with this? So one thing is it consists of considered examples only with a finite number of outcomes. So suppose I want to tell that I want to choose a natural number. So then that will be, I can choose anything from 1 to infinity. So that sample space is actually infinite, but such kind of problems I cannot solve with this definition. Then all outcomes are considered to be equally likely. So in this, okay, now if I consider I want to choose numbers from 1 to 10, then all I can choose anything out of 1 to 10. So all are equally likely. So I can use this. I have a total number of outcomes favorable to the event is 1. And I have like 10 options. So 1 by 10 is my probability for selecting 1. Similarly for 2, 3 and all. So choosing any one of these is 1 by 10. But suppose some other case, let's see what I can think of immediately. Let me see. Where all outcomes are not equally likely. So suppose there is a thing like when we are some simple example somebody can think of. Okay, somebody can think of our chat window some simple example where the all outcomes are not equally likely. Okay, this may not be right correct example, but I will just tell. Suppose in the morning I go out of my home and assume I go by bus to office. Then suppose then the bus comes at 7:40. So suppose I am late and I miss the bus. I may take a public conveyance. And again, if I become further late, I come out by 8 only, then I will take a auto or something. Then my problem is, what is the probability that I will go by my department bus, or the probability that I will go by public conveyance, or the probability that I will go by an auto. So here the probability, as you can see, is not. If it is equally likely, then I will have tell that 1 by 3 will be my probability. But here it is additionally related to the concept of time also. So I have additional variable time here. So if it is before 7:40, I will go by department bus only. If it is before 8, I will go by public conveyance only. So if it is after 8, I will go by auto. So that kind of things, my outcomes are not equally likely. That have an addition depend on an additional variable called time also. So situations like this, I cannot use the classical definition. So if we consider like tossing of a unbiased coin, rolling of a fair die, picking of card from perfectly shuffled up deck of cards and all, this classical definition is valid. But for situations like these that we considered, this thing is not valid. So now what we can you do in those kind of situations that we will see. So second thing that is called the frequentist or statistical approach of probability. So this I was amazed because when I went through the textbook, it was told like, as you have learned in standard 9, statistical approach is used for so and so purpose. So I have actually not even learned this, but the students now are learning the statistical approach in 9 standard and learning the other classical approach in 12th standard. I know classical approach also they are telling like it is, I was learning classical approach in 12th standard, but the people now are learning statistical approach in 9th standard. And the text tells that okay, classical approach was an old one, and they are actually learning this third approach. And this second and third ones I am actually learning in an thing currently only, because when I studied, I was only knowing all this classical thing. So that is what you should always try to keep updated. So okay, so let's see what is this statistical approach. So it tries to find the probability on the basis of observations and collected data. So as we saw experiment earlier, we were trying to like predict what are the outcomes, what are the things, how many things are there. So in a statistical approach, we will try to do the experiment n times. We will collect the data for all those n observations, and based on that, we will try to arrive at some figures. And it uses rigid frameworks and like when we learn in subsequent sessions, we will see p-values, confidence intervals, those kind of things all will come again inside this. And then what something related to this is, I don't know actually what it is. I hope we will learn it further. Something when I went through document, something I saw is there is statistical approach to probability can be frequentist as well as Bayesian. So Bayes is one scientist's name. So Bayesian approach. So both approaches are therefore statistical. So I couldn't understand what it is, so I have not included here. So you can also go through that if you are interested. So then what the people currently in +2 are learning. So this is called the axiomatic approach of probability. So it sets down a set of axioms or rules that apply to all types of probability, including frequentist problems as well as classical problems. And the three rules are known as Kolmogorov's three axioms. And these are actually very simple because already we saw similar things in our earlier classical definition. And we already know this. First thing is probability of any event is greater than or equal to 0. Very simple, right? So we are talking about chance. We are trying to measure this thing. So we will tell that probability of any event. So we will just write it down. Probability of any event is less than or equal to. It can be 0 as well. That the probability that the probability that my house is in sun is 0, right? My house is in earth. So the probability that my house is in sun is 0 currently. Okay, maybe after 100 years, somebody can make a house in sun. We don't know. For the current thing, it is 0, right? And the probability of a SC is 1, where SC is the sample space of an experiment. That I will come to what is the sample space is set. So we saw this concept of universal set earlier, like when we are doing an experiment on human population, the entire set of people in all over the world will come from the universal set. So the sample space is a concept similar to this. When I am doing an experiment, a sample set will consist of the all possible outcomes which can come out of that experiment. So that means when we consider all the elements in a sample set, the probability of all those will come as 1. So that puts an upper limit basically on my probability of a single event. So using these two, I can write like probability of any event A will be always between 0 and 1. As you can see, I have included 0 as well as 1 here. So if it is 1, then I mean that it is a sure event. So a sure event like I am living on Earth currently is a sure event, like, and then this is what is called an impossible event. If the probability is 0, the probability impossible event like I am living in sun, so that is an impossible event. So this rules 1 and 2 gives like me an upper limit and a lower limit on the individual probability of any particular event. Now, if A and B are mutually exclusive, like two events are there, A and B, which are mutually exclusive, that means both cannot occur together. That is, let me tell the probability that I will go by, like same example that I told earlier, the probability that I will go by bus or public convenience or car. So I will go either by bus or I will either go by public conveyance or either I will go by car or auto. I cannot go by any two of these at a time. So in that case, it is called mutually exclusive events. So if I have two mutually exclusive events, let's say A is I am going by department bus and B is everything else. So if I consider the probability that A union B is actually the sum, that is the probability that I will go to office by bus plus the probability of that I will go by public conveyance plus I go by car or auto. All these things I can sum it here because all these events are mutually exclusive, because only one of these at a time will happen. So we'll go to next thing where we will define, we introduce some particular terms here and there. Some things you might have understood from my explanation, some things might not be clear to you. So we will just go through some terms that we introduced in these two slides. So first thing is called a random experiment. So you tell me just over the chat window if I need to explain these things again and or not. So if you want to more detail, I will go, because random experiment we already saw. It has more than one possible outcome and it is not possible to predict the outcome in extra advance, and that's called a random experiment. Outcome and sample space. Any possible result is called an outcome or a sample point, and the set of all possible outcomes is called the sample space. So it is like the universal set concept only, but it is applicable only to the random experiment which we are currently considering. So that is called a sample space. And the sample space, the restriction is that when we do a random experiment once, then the outcome should be any one out of the entries in the sample space. So that is again from this we are told like sample space consists of all possible outcomes. So as you can see, as we told earlier, that includes the null set also. Okay, next thing is what is an event? An event is a subset of sample space. That's a collection of points in the sample set. So event is basically what I will consider, like when I told like probability of A plus probability of B when it is mutually exclusive. So this A and B are actually subset of the sample space, and these will be called as events. Yeah, now occurrence of an event. So what when I will tell that an event has occurred. Okay, now we will see what are the different types of events that will come associated with a when we are discussing about probability. So first thing is what is called a simple event. A simple event is something which has a single sample point. Like I throw a die, so I have like 1 to 6. So out of this, in a single throw of die, only either 1 can come, or 2 can come, or 3 can come. So my set of favorable outcome will have only one element. So such type of events are called simple events. Then from this itself, we can think what is a compound event, right? So compound events or decomposable events are those events that are obtained by combining together two or more elementary events. So like that, if I tell that what is the probability that an even number comes up, so then that will, when I throw a die, so that will have the either 2, 4, 6 comes, that will be valid, right? So that has like multiple sample points. And or I tell that suppose my problem is what's the probability that I will draw a heart from a deck of cards. So then I have like 4 suits of cards, heart, spade, club, diamond. Then my output will be like simple event it will be, right? So since there is only a single outcome in my sample space. So suppose I modify the statement to tell that what is the probability that I want to see a red card. Then red card is basically what? Heart as well as diamond is red. So here I will get a compound event, which is heart union diamond, which will be as equivalent as heart or diamond. So things like that are called compound events. So mutually exclusive events I will not go into detail because we just now saw earlier my best example. So that are events which are said to be which will not occur at the same time. Any one of those only can occur at one time. And similarly, mutually non-exclusive are the ulta of this. So those events can happen together. Like what I can tell. Okay, one example I have given here, like getting a hard suit is my one event, and getting a red card is my second event E2. Then even intersection E2 is like not 0, right? Because if I choose a hard suit, then I will fill this event 1 will be satisfied, as well as this event 2 will be satisfied. So the intersection of these two will be actually all the hard cards. So that way, this is a mutually non-exclusive events, this E1 and E2 that I have defined here. The next event that we consider is like independent events. The two events are said to be independent if the happening or not happening of one event is affected by the other. That is not affected by the other. So suppose I toss 2 coins, then the first coin head or tail will come, second coin head or tail will come. So the head or tail in the first coin will have no effect on whether a head or tail will come in the second trial. So that is why this is will fall in the class of independent events. Now suppose our best example, suppose I told 40, 8, etc. Now suppose I have another event what I'm that I wake up at 6:30. Probability that I wake up at 7, probability that I wake up at 7:50. So then there is a, if I wake up at 6:30, there is a most probable that I will catch the bus. If I wake at 7, I may go by public conveyance, I may miss by bus. If I wake up still late, I may go by other auto or bus only. So these first event that when I will wake up, and then second event like which mode I will use for transport. So these two are not independent because these two are have a relation, right? So even though I may not be able to quantify it to the exact way, I can tell with some statistics. Okay, this is my approximate probability that I will do this and I will do this. Okay, so these are like dependent events. 2 or more events are said to be dependent if happening of one event affects partially or totally other event. Because partially only, because even if I wake up at 7, if I get ready fast, I can catch the 7:40 bus, right? So it is only like the first event is only, the second event is only partially dependent on the first event. It is not like fully dependent. And exhaustive event is a set of events is said to be exhaustive if the performance of random experiments always result in occurrence of at least one of them. So I will ask you a question. Suppose I will go by department bus or public conveyance or auto or car. whether is it an exhaustive events? Is this whether this will cover all my possibilities? Question for yes or no. I want answers in the chat. Is this set of events exhaustive? I am planning to. Yeah, I got an answer no. You can just type out why it is no also. So why is this set not exhaustive? Why is this set not covering all the possible scenarios? Okay, so one thing can also happen here. Suppose I decide not to go. I did not type N. So I wake up even late, or I have some other business to do that day. No, that is not the reason. It is not because these are not possible at the same time. Exhaustive means that the set which I consider should have all the events that will have a probability of taking place. So it should none of the event that finally happens should be outside of that set. So in this case, I tell me my set is bus, public transport, car or auto. And even then there is a possibility that I will not go to office that day. So if I consider that not going to office that day also, then I will get a set of exhaustive events corresponding to this problem statement. So this may come into picture because when as we told like probability of S is equal to 1, that means set of all probabilities will count up to 1. So if I see this particular problem, if I count probabilities till this point, that will be always less than 1. Because once I consider this not going to office probability also, will the probability of all these events in the sample space will be equal to 1. So I hope you got your point, right? You got my point, right? Right. And if I am considering a single sure event, like we told earlier, my house is in Earth. So then for events like that, with that single event, my probability will be 1. So that exhaustive set will consist of only that single event.